New arrival threatens Coronation Street's dark Meghan secret. Few soap operas command the cultural weight and emotional loyalty of Coronation Street. For more than 6 decades, the cobbled streets of Weatherfield have been home to love stories, betrayals, crimes, redemptions, and the occasional quiet moment of grace. But every so often, a storyline emerges that cuts deeper than most, one that unsettles viewers not merely because of what happens on screen, but because of what it reveals about human vulnerability, power, and manipulation. That is precisely the territory Coronation Street is entering now, as the arrival of a seemingly unassuming new character threatens to unravel a carefully constructed facade, and expose the disturbing truth behind Meghan Walsh's carefully guarded secret. At the center of this slow-burning storm is Lee Driscoll, a young athlete whose sudden appearance in Weatherfield sends shockwaves through Meghan's life, jeopardizing the delicate balance she has worked so hard to maintain. His presence does not simply complicate her romantic entanglements, it reopens old wounds, resurrects unanswered questions, and threatens to expose a past Meghan would do anything to keep buried. As this storyline unfolds, Coronation Street invites viewers to look beyond surface-level villainy and explore the unsettling mechanics of manipulation, how charm, vulnerability, and affection can be weaponized, and how easily love can be confused with control. The illusion of control. Meghan Walsh's carefully curated world. Meghan Walsh is not introduced to viewers as a traditional soap, bad girl. She is composed, intelligent, and emotionally articulate, a woman who appears to know exactly who she is and what she wants. But beneath that polished exterior lies a far more troubling reality. From the moment Meghan arrived on the street, she demonstrated an uncanny ability to read people. She knows which insecurities to soothe, which fears to exploit, and which emotional strings to pull. To some, she appears nurturing and empathetic, to others, alluring and enigmatic. But in truth, Meghan's greatest strength is her ability to blur emotional boundaries until those around her no longer recognize where her influence ends and their own agency begins. This manipulation is not loud or overt. It is quiet, incremental, and devastatingly effective. Nowhere is this more evident than in her relationship with Will Driscoll. Will Driscoll, love, loyalty, and a dangerous misunderstanding. Will Driscoll is, in many ways, the perfect counterpoint to Meghan. Earnest, emotionally open, and deeply loyal, Will is not a man accustomed to suspicion. When he falls for Meghan, he does so wholeheartedly, convinced that he has found someone who truly understands him. To Will, Meghan's questionable decisions are not red flags but acts of passion, misguided, perhaps, but driven by love. She has convinced him that the lines she crosses are justified, even necessary, in the name of emotional connection. In Will's mind, Meghan is not manipulative, she is misunderstood. Insiders suggest that Meghan has carefully cultivated this perception, positioning herself as a woman whose intensity is merely a byproduct of devotion. And Will, eager to be the one who gets her, accepts this narrative without question. What he does not realize, what viewers are slowly beginning to see, is that he may not be the first man to believe this story. The night that changes everything. Lee Driscoll at the Rovers. The turning point comes quietly, almost innocently. Will, eager to impress Meghan and unaware of the history he is about to resurrect, invites his brother Lee Driscoll back to the Rovers. Lee, a young athlete with an unassuming charm, has recently arrived in Weatherfield, hoping for a fresh start. The moment Meghan sees him, everything changes. For the first time since her arrival, Meghan loses control, not outwardly, but in the subtle tightening of her expression, the hesitation in her voice, the split-second delay before she masks her reaction. Lee is not just another face from her past, he is a living reminder of something she desperately wants to forget. To viewers, the tension is immediate and palpable. Lee and Meghan share a connection that is clearly deeper than a casual acquaintance, though its nature remains shrouded in ambiguity. What is unmistakable, however, is Meghan's fear. Lee's presence represents a threat not because of what he intends to do, but because of what he knows, a past that refuses to stay silent. As the days unfold, it becomes increasingly clear that Lee's arrival is not a coincidence of fate but a collision of unfinished business. Hints dropped through dialogue and lingering glances suggest that Meghan once held a position of influence in Lee's life, one that crossed boundaries she now refuses to acknowledge. Whether Lee recognizes himself as a victim or not remains uncertain, but his discomfort around Meghan speaks volumes. For Meghan, Lee is a liability. He disrupts the carefully curated narrative she has spun for Will and others, one in which she is the wounded romantic rather than the architect of emotional harm. The question looming over the storyline is not simply what Meghan did, but how often, and to whom. Jealousy and desire, the Daniel Osborne complication. As if Lee's arrival were not enough, Meghan's emotional equilibrium is further destabilized by her growing connection with Daniel Osborne. Daniel, long portrayed as introspective and emotionally complex, finds himself drawn to Meghan's vulnerability. Their conversations are charged with intellectual intimacy and unspoken longing, culminating in Daniel confessing his feelings for her. For Meghan, Daniel represents something different, less malleable than Will, more challenging, and perhaps more dangerous. His interest feeds her need for validation, yet it also exposes cracks in her emotional control. Will, perceptive despite his devotion, begins to notice the shift. His jealousy intensifies as he watches Meghan gravitate toward Daniel, her reassurances growing increasingly hollow. Caught between two men, one she controls, and one she cannot, Meghan's carefully balanced world begins to tilt. The phone call, a warning from the shadows. Just when Meghan believes she can manage the chaos, she receives a phone call that leaves her visibly shaken. The call is brief, cryptic, and deeply unsettling. A voice from her past warns her to stay away, to stop making contact, to leave well enough alone. Though the caller's identity is not revealed, the message is unmistakable. Meghan's actions have consequences, and someone is watching. This moment marks a shift in the narrative. For the first time, Meghan is not merely reacting to events but actively fearing exposure. The hunter, it seems, may be becoming the hunted. Lee's sudden reappearance, the net tightens. Soon after the call, Lee reappears unexpectedly, his presence reigniting Meghan's panic. The timing is too precise to be coincidental, raising suspicions that Lee may be closer to uncovering the truth than Meghan realizes. Is Lee aware of the full extent of Meghan's manipulation? Or is he, like Will, still struggling to understand the nature of their past relationship? What is clear is that Meghan sees him not as an old acquaintance, but as a threat, one capable of dismantling everything she has built. A storyline with purpose, collaboration with Bernardo's. What sets this storyline apart from many others is its careful, considered approach to an exceptionally sensitive subject. Coronation Street has worked closely with Bernardo's, the UK children's charity, to ensure that themes of grooming and emotional manipulation are portrayed responsibly. Rather than sensationalizing the issue, the show focuses on the subtle warning signs, the gradual erosion of boundaries, the emotional dependency, the confusion between affection and control. By framing Meghan's behavior within this context, the soap challenges viewers to reconsider preconceived notions of abuse and power. It asks uncomfortable but necessary questions. What does grooming look like when it isn't obvious? When the manipulator appears vulnerable? When the victim does not see themselves as such? What lies ahead? Consequences and reckonings. As the weeks progress, viewers can expect Coronation Street to delve even deeper into Meghan's psyche and the fallout of her actions. Will's loyalty will be tested as truths begin to surface. Daniel may find himself questioning the woman he thought he knew. And Lee, knowingly or not, may become the catalyst for long overdue accountability. Whether Meghan ultimately faces justice, redemption, or something far more complex remains to be seen. What is certain is that her influence over those around her is no longer absolute. The walls are closing in. Why this story matters. In an era when soap operas are sometimes dismissed as escapist entertainment, Coronation Street continues to demonstrate its ability to engage with real-world issues in a way that is both accessible and profoundly affecting. Megan Walsh's story is not simply about secrets and betrayal. It is about the dangerous ease with which emotional power can be abused, and the courage it takes to confront it. Coronation Street airs weeknights at 8:30 p.m. on ITV1 and is available to stream on ITVX. For the latest updates, exclusive interviews, spoilers, and behind-the-scenes insights, visit Filmoggers.